All right, welcome everyone to our second official Lords of War podcast. I'm your host, Chris Sly, and we have back my partner, Jason Zajac.
How's it going?
And we also have Jordan Cameron and Stan McKim. How's it going, guys?
Not too bad. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good, good, good. As you guys know from our first episode, we're doing a little challenge leading up to our Lords of War summer event, which is on August 15th and 16th. The 16th being Infinity and Malifaux. And we've been framing this podcast around Malifaux and how to actually get prepared for that event. So, as you know, if you've listened to the first podcast, we're all working on different crews. So I've chosen the guild's Hoffman, Metal and Flesh. Jason, what are you working on, bud?
I just finished painting the Brewmaster and almost done Jan Love's crew. So,
Holy moly.
Holy moly.
Jordan, how about you, bud?
I'm still plugging away at my Rasputina crew.
And Stan?
Leviticus is slowly getting painted. Along with all
That's awesome, man. So I guess I'll start with myself. Yeah, so a little funny. We recorded the last podcast, and I immediately decided to go on vacation. So I was going to have absolutely nothing to report as progress today, but I actually had the day off and just literally ripped through half of Hoffman's crew in a day. So I actually have Hoffman finished. So we'll be actually posting a photo group on our Facebook page, Lords of War Games and Hobbies, where we can actually post pictures of our finished minis, so you can actually check them out as we talk about them. So my approach to Hoffman was a little bit pretty simple, actually. I don't know if you guys have seen the box, but he's got a bunch of metal dudes. He's the robots guy for the guild. So they're all pretty metallic for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So I just did a simple two-tone with my airbrush using the Vallejo Game Airs to give me a good starting point on each of them. And I've really been liking using the airbrush for metals. It gives you a really smooth, dark to light kind of metallic look. And then I'll just I'll go in with some blue and black shade and just add a bit more definition to the metal. That's usually my approach. As opposed to highlighting it a bunch, I just tend to kind of shade it a bit. And pretty much only finished Hoffman so far. He was pretty straightforward. He's got some steampunk power fists, which are pretty cool.
He is really cool.
Yeah, and he
Thinks he's
got
Marty's
his little
color.
engineer jacket on and stuff. So he was pretty quick to paint up.
So less pieces than Hannah, or?
We're bringing up Hannah already, eh?
Uh-huh.
Ash isn't even here to defend himself.
No, he's not. Yeah.
Not that there's a defense for just failing miserably at a hobby.
Oh!
Just to start another crew. So
That's true. So
Yeah.
basically, building Hannah sold him another box of models. So
Mm-hmm.
that's positive, I suppose.
For you guys, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Jason, why don't you talk a bit more about your progress on your crew?
Well, I went the opposite road. I mean, I do normally airbrush everything, but I decided to be a hero and just hand paint everything, which I know sounds ridiculous. Yeah. You didn't airbrush this? No. I don't know what. I started with coal black on my. Actually, sorry. I primed everything that Army Painter makes like a nice rusty brown, like a reddish brown, and I kind of like it. It keeps colors warm. Everything that goes on top kind of stays warm, and any kind of natural browns and stuff go all over it. So neither of those crews have any metals on them really. The gremlins from the Brewmaster are just cloth. And, they have a lot of personality. They're not very big models, but I think it's funny. The favorite guy in the crew there that I painted, I think, was Wesley, the apprentice, with his like stupid grin on his face, and he's got this like little rice hat and basket. He seems so unassuming, but he's actually really critical to the crew. I think people just kind of forget he's even there. So that was fun. I just used our standard basing method with Grown Earth, and
The official, unofficial basing of
official,
Malifaux.
unofficial. Yeah, and I did their skin kind of bluish green or more turquoisey, and I like the way that came out. Yeah, kind of a bit of a little more ghostly look to them. You can tell they're different. They stand out, and I think if I had other gremlins, they would stand out a lot. So so I did that, and then just today I finished the 3 Ashguru for Yanlo's crew. I did. Chris gave me the idea to just kind of paint all their armor kind of different colors. Like I guess if they were in feudal Japan, they probably wear the armor of their family or whatever they had owned. So not everyone. I didn't do the standard black or off black armor. One guy's like blue, one guy's kind of red, one guy's a little more.
Did you paint one as Tom Cruise, The Last Samurai?
Yeah, one guy's in red armor actually. So.
Alright.
And he's got like this kind of longish hair like he had in the movie. So yeah, sort of. I actually decided to use something I didn't done too much of is use the technical paints. Other than Lamy and Medium, I used some nickel oxide, some Blood for the Blood God, some what is it, Typhus Corrosion or whatever it is. It's Nurgle's Corrosion.
So
it's the brown.
good.
It's the light brown one. And I kind of they have like spear tips, so they're kind of really gory. And then there's a little bit of blood spatter on one of their banners. Just kind of played with it. And it looked kind of cool. So they're done. I just need to finish the little totem guy for his crew, and those are done. And then all I got left is Whiskey Golem. It's just a lot of wood. Just wood, painting lots of brown. He's like half done. And it's Amu. I have him pretty base coated. I'm saving him for the last. I think he'll be just like a fun night. And
He's a really cool model.
He is, yeah. And I kind of like that he's not that undead. Like he's got like a mask face, so. Kind of the pain in the butt with the Ashguru is like their bone, and not the painting bow is hard, but it could be kind of tedious. So I look forward to just working on its Amu, and I'm gonna do Amino Zako too after, and then I think that'll round out my 100 points there or soul stones.
Yeah, that sounds awesome, dude. Yeah, that'll put you at 3 crews, right? Finish.
Oh yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah,
3. I think they're sufficiently different. Just the way they play, so I don't know. We'll see. There's so much to because the way the 10 Thunders just blend into so many other like all the other factions. You have like all these little options you can rather than have like 6 or 7 kits that are just 10 Thunders. They have like 5 or 6 that are dual. So that's kind of neat. It's different.
Yeah, and Jay makes a good point. If you're picking 3 crews, you definitely want to try to make them suited for different tasks, and we'll talk about that later as we get into it. Yeah, Jordan, how's your progress going, buddy?
Fantastic, because I managed to get myself. Yeah, you wonder why. It's probably got to do with the fact that I got the Nightmare Edition of Rasputina. So a lot of my painting's done because I'm just going with the big. I can't remember the big guy's name. But anybody who's made out of ice and anything that would be made out of ice is staying the blue crystal. While I paint the Wendigo and Rasputina herself, like all of her clothing, although I'm going to leave her skin that way. The person I got them from, thank you, Jay, said that's the way they were going to paint it. Yeah, different Jay. Jay Griffiths came up with that as how he was going to paint them, so I decided I'd do the same thing.
You're honoring him by doing it. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry.
I was just going to say, way to collect the crew of invisible Frodos.
Right? So,
just gotta do the bases and they're done.
But don't worry, I got some pretty fancy bases. I broke.
You did. At least you did that.
I broke the mold, and I didn't go with the Stan McKim basing method trademark. I went with secret weapon bases. So
that's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to my second faction, so I can break out of the the basing myself just to do something a little different. But
which weapon ones did you pick up, Jordan?
I grabbed the, I think it's the Rocky Wasteland or something. It's the ones that basically look like shale rocks everywhere.
Rocky Bluff, I think it's called.
Yeah, and I painted them all up really quick because they're mostly stone, and then I used the GW, I think it's the Middenheim Tufts, the Mordheim Tufts, the ones that are kind of yellow, and
grass.
Added some grass on it, and then I dry brushed wherever the model's feet was going to be. I dry brushed it really heavily with white, so it looks like it's frosting where they're walking.
Cool. Oh, cool.
So it's not just clear plastic, although it's mostly clear plastic.
Oh, that's really neat.
And
you've done a noble job of just using clear plastic. At least you've done some stuff.
Yeah. Well, I didn't think the Wendigo being clear didn't make sense, which Jay pointed out, and then her clothing. So anything that would have been not ice, I made sure to hand prime with some Abaddon Black so that I can go back and paint it up. Now
Which
I
I
just
think
need
is going
to
to look
bring
really
in
cool and unique. Like you don't see that often, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I hope so. So it'll
Yeah.
look a little bit different than my other crews, which are just standard, like the way I paint everything. So this is a little bit different, something I haven't done before.
Awesome. Stan, so where are you at, man?
I also went on vacation.
Did you now?
I know it's crazy, huh? Yeah, nice trip home and all. Definitely meant that I didn't get a lot of painting done that week, or any painting done that week. However, um, this weekend I was able to sit down and put some paint on my Abominations, which, other than their tufts, are completed. I had a lot of fun painting them. The first thing I did with the crew was I primed them black, but then took some white through the airbrush and sprayed from above to give them a really harsh transition from white to black, and to create some natural shading on the figures. And I had said before, the original plan was to do very high contrast colors. So like all the skins are very pale, into like an off-white, while all the clothes and other details are much darker. So with the Abominations, I'm really happy with the result. I went for really dark metals on the more mechanical looking dudes, like the twisty half snake face monster thing, or the blades on the dude walking around on all fours. I had a lot of fun painting like the ripped up rib cage of the one guy who's like got the big rib claw stabby bits and all the gore inside. Messing around with some washes, some flesh tones. Some of my favorites for doing that sort of jazz are purple washes, Druchii Violet from
Oh yeah.
as well as some Carroburg Crimson. Always add some nice depth and a little bit of color to those sorts of things. And then, of course, you got to have a little Blood for the Blood God in there as well, just on the especially gory parts. The skin was great. I actually used, I believe it's called Pale Flesh from the Vallejo Game Air range to do most of their skin. It's what it looks like is if you had a paint pot of white and accidentally had too much red paint on from another model and dipped it in and shook it up. Like it's just got this really subtle sort of pinkish tone to it. It complements the Games Workshop flesh tones really well. But sprayed over the white on its own, get like this really creepy pale skin, a little bit of Lamian medium mixed with Reikland flesh shade to shade it down a little bit in the really deep recesses, and some purple around the facial details, mouths, and any sort of like a sutured on mechanical parts. And I was really happy with the result. Is a lot of fun to paint. So the four of them are done. I'll get pictures up in the photo gallery as soon as we can. And I was also lucky enough to have some time to work on a couple of the hollow waifs, which they're really fun models. It's the classic flowing cloth sort of dresses and long flowing hair and the pale skin. There's just lots of really interesting things and textures on the model. And so I actually played around with a little bit of color, but it's keeping the high contrast thing happening. So once again, they have really pale skin that matches the Abominations, although a little bit less sickly. Then I got to do one of the waifs in like dark purples with nice black hair. So again, very dark and light thing playing around on that one. The other one I actually kept very muted, using rays on all the cloth, and again black hair, pale skin, with just a little bit of accent with some gold on the jewelry and stuff to break the model up a little bit. And they're a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to finishing the third Hollow Waif since she's a lot more dynamic. She's the one who looks like she's like running forward and screaming. Traditionally on the box art she's painted in yellow, but I think I'm going to go with almost like a just pure black cloth, pale skin, just to really accent that screaming face. And yeah, as soon as I'm done the Hollow Waifs, it's on to the really cool models. I'm kind of saving them for the final sprint to the finish, just because they're going to be so much fun to do. Leviticus and Rusty Alice. Rusty Alice is one I've wanted to paint since I saw the artwork in the Malifaux rulebook, even before the crew came out. just such an interesting, characterful piece, and they really captured it perfectly on the figure. But yeah, the same high angle white spray over black primer was applied to both of them, which I think is really gonna make for some cool transitions once I get to the coats and robes and stuff like that. So yeah, lots of fun.
I feel like we need the GW style painting videos with Duncan Rhodes when Stan talks about his how he paints his models. We need. Hi, this is Malifaux. I don't know, Malifaux painting with Stan McKim.
Just load up one of Duncan's videos, but plug in all the colors he said. Good,
Yeah.
good. Like,
Yeah. And now I use my fine detailed brush from the Layer series of brushes, and we're going to use this gold, not this gold, but this one.
Remember, lots of thin layers are better than one.
give it a little shake.
Awesome, guys. So it sounds like we're all making some good progress. I'm hoping to have my crew done pretty soon in the next couple of days or so. It sounds like Stan's almost finished.
My goal is to finish my crew before Jordan finishes his not mostly painted crew.
Which is my goal. My goal is to finish my mostly not having to actually paint crew before you finish a whole crew.
I was gone for a week.
Listen. There was a special plastic box that showed up, and I got really busy. So, yeah. Until then, I was doing really well.
If I finish my one model tomorrow, don't I have two crews finished? Aren't I beating everyone?
Listen, Jay, I wasn't competing with you. All right.
Oh, okay.
That's really getting close to finishing a faction, Jay.
Almost.
That would be.
Whoa! Pump the brakes. He's almost finished. He's almost finished 3 crews. That's not a faction.
That's only like 2 crews for 10 thunders, technically, right? Sure, 10 thunders.
7.
Oh well, I know. I'm contradicting myself. I just talked about how they blend in with every other faction.
Oh man, if you're trying to compete with anybody, don't even bother. Stan's on like 8 or 9 crews. So.
Oh yeah, I know. He's the mayor of Malifaux.
Just forget about it. Yeah.
I don't want to piss him off. He'll kick me out of Malifaux.
Yeah.
I'll end up as one of the dreamers' daydreams or whatever they are.
Oh jeez. Anyway, so we're gonna shift gears a little here, and we're gonna put the hobby trash talk aside for a second, and we're gonna talk a little bit about some basic strategies today. So we're gonna go into the 4 different strategies that are gonna be used at Lords of War weekend. You're gonna play each of them once. And this is just helpful information because these are the 4 strategies you play with all the time. So for those of you that are brand spanking new, a strategy is your kind of overarching objective in Malifaux. There's only one to go along with the 2 schemes that you draw. And the strategy can have up to 4 points scored off it in a game, and both players are attempting to score off the same strategy. So there's no differences. There's the same one. You're going for it. So the first one we'll take a look at is Turf War. Turf War is just basically capture the hill or fight over the middle or whatever you want to call it. Basically, it's you place a marker in the center of the table, and you basically want to get 2 models or more within 6 inches of it, and you can start counting points at the end of turn 2. So as you can kind of gander from an objective like that, you want some tough, survivable models. You want models that might be able to go toe to toe with your opponent. So yeah, we'll just go around and kind of talk about what we might, or our thoughts or experience based on playing some Turf War. So Jay, have you played some Turf War games?
I did actually, and it wasn't that long ago. A couple of weeks ago, I got to play with my Misaki crew. Going along with what you said there, trying to take some hardy models. I tried to use things like the Orin to lure my opponent's models out of the center. Just kind of save for activation for kind of later to try and just deny them a point if possible. Use my Low River Monk to kind of go on defensive mode, and then I would use their other speedier parts of my crew to kind of actually zip around down the side to try and pull models away in that regard, because it's like, well, if you focus on the center, then you can do that, but then I'll come around, behind you or around you or whatever. So that was kind of my approach to that. I thought the other two crews I play, like the Brewmaster, and I actually haven't really touched on too much with the Anvil, but I know with the Brewmaster, they're a little more fragile. Depends. I think I might run the Whiskey Golem I might beeline him because when he drops a lot of poison every time he gets hit and when he dies. So if my opponent's focusing modeled on the center, then it wouldn't be a bad idea for me to kind of get the Whiskey Golem in there for that reason. But yeah, it can be tricky because you don't want to overcommit. I mean, unless you're playing, I guess, really beefy. I'm thinking things like teddies or whatever, something that's stuff that's really hard to kill. But yeah, that's how I approached it. And I actually did all okay. I made one mistake there where I accidentally moved the model a little too far, and that cost me a point. And that I think I lost that game by 1 or 2, and that was one of the times where I was like, ooh, I just lost focus for a second because I thought, I want to do this other thing, and then I looked back, I was like, oh no, I should have stayed there. So that's my thoughts on it. Just be tricksy. Maybe I don't know, play the long game a little. Like with your activations, you don't have to beeline there. You can kind of run guys in towards the end of your turn if possible. So that's my thought on that.
Jordan, have you played any Turf War recently, or got any kind of?
The Turf War that I played it actually a bunch of times. The downside is I played it with Outcast, so it was really easy to shove 10 Soulstone guys in there and just laugh as people bounced off of them. Because Bishop loves it when you come to him.
Oh boy, yeah.
So that my experience with it is mostly with my Outcasts, and it's exactly what Jay and actually what you said too. I like to take the big guys. I like to take the higher Soulstone cost kind of beat stick guys and kind of throw them into the center, and then use my trickier high maneuverability guys, or even the ones who are able to drop down scheme markers as 0 actions or as with a little bit of a range on them, and I have them run around and complete the schemes on the sides. That's one of the missions one of the schemes I always take with Turf War is line in the sand, just because I'm already going to be near the center anyways. And I just
that makes sense.
start dropping down scheme markers on the sides, and forcing my opponent to choose going after my scheme markers or trying to score points with the strategy. With the Arcanist, I think based off what I plan on taking in this event, I would probably go with Rasputina and try to clog it up with a whole bunch of the Ice Gammons as well as the Ice Golem, because they have the explosive demise. So if you're clustered in around them, trying to get rid of them, trying to score points, when they die, they'll explode and deal damage to you and hopefully kill you too.
Well, that's pretty good. Yeah.
Wow.
So that would probably be what I went for. Well, December Acolytes and other, like I said, fast people were running around the sides and either locking you down, like a Rasputina can cast her spells out and paralyze your guys, or have the December Acolytes just running around dropping scheme markers and forcing you to go after them. And they're not an easy target either, so they're pretty fast.
Yeah, and they dish out slow, which is never a bad thing.
Yeah. So with Turf War, normally what I'll do is rely on my schemes to score my points. And then if Turf War happens to get me a couple as well, then I'm happy. But if I force my opponent to choose between dealing with my schemes or dealing with that strategy, I've already started to win. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stan, what are your thoughts on Turf War?
Turf War is an interesting one. I don't think I've ever failed to score max points off of Turf War, or if I have, it's been on the rare occasion. Just because my traditional gaming is with Neverborn, and I tend to prefer more close-up, fighty types of crews like Lilith, or even things like Pandora, where you want to have a bunch of models close to each other. And that being said, I don't know that I've ever prevented my opponent from scoring max, if not most, points in Turf War either, because of that. Playing with the Outcast is going to be really interesting, particularly because I have a couple of crews that I think are going to excel at Turf War, not only just because they're fighty, but also because they can be more manipulative. Like 2 of my crews that I think are going to be the best at it are Terra, just for the simple fact that she wants to give her own models fast as well as the opponents. Dropping fast on a bunch of enemy guys and then penalizing them for it is going to be great. It basically is going to tell my opponent that like, you don't want to come to this center, because if you do, I am going to pull all my tricks on you, right? And nobody really wants to be put on the defensive like that. Not to mention, Tira's crew is also pretty fast, so I'll be able to get to the center reliably turn 1, turn 2, at least at the same time as my opponent, if not beforehand. So I can kind of set up my control right from the get-go. The other one is Von Schill with the Free Core. He has a lot of buffs that he gives out to his crew. If they're within range of him, they want to stay in a close-knit ball of death, so you can take all those buffs and bonuses. And once again, nobody wants to fight Von Schill. If he's standing in the middle saying, "Come at me, bro," like that's not a good place to be as an opponent. So yeah, I've got those two synergistic kind of crews in my favor in Turf War. Now, I mean, that being said, I don't have a lot of stuff that can necessarily force my opponent out of the center. Like I have played games with Zoraida, and she has an ability that can basically push everyone out of 6 inches of the table, so forcing them away from the center entirely, keeping them out of the Turf War entirely. And I don't have any abilities like that with the Outcast. It's going to come down to straight up just holding my ground, trying to keep my opponent on the back foot while I just collect my points every turn. So it's going to be very, very interesting change in style. I'm looking forward to giving it a try. I'm hoping that once we get some games, and I'll be able to talk a little bit more about how I might change my tactics going into a Turf War again. But yeah, it's going to be your learning experience, changing styles like that. I mean, that being said, schemes are going to affect that too. Like Jordan says, line in the sand, you're going to be in the middle already, so why not have some schemes that synergize with that thing? So it's going to be about picking the right schemes in that case too. So I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, as far as Turf War goes, I'm feeling pretty confident right off the bat with Terra and Von Schill in my pool of models.
Cool, man. That's awesome. Yeah, just from my own personal experience with Guild, Turf War is one of those ones that it kind of lends itself to killing models. If you're going to be able to kill models, you're going to do pretty good at Turf War, just by sheer outnumbering your opponent. I tend to lean on the same kind of way, taking some beefier models like executioners, things that that your opponent doesn't really want to be mixing it up with in the middle. And then also going along Jordan's point, having some Witchling Stalkers with Sonya is pretty sweet, because they also explode when they die. So throwing them into the middle and having them as little bombs never hurts. And you can have Sonya and Samuel Hopkins just sitting waiting until you're on fire, and then they can start shooting you to pieces.
Oh, he's called Samuel Hopkins.
Samuel Hopkins. Higgins.
Chickens.
I obviously haven't played too much with Hoffman yet, but he's got some pretty tanky dudes, so I think he'll actually do okay at Turf War, having lots of armor and heavy, guys that can absorb a lot of damage. I was also thinking, if I end up playing with Lucius, which I think I'm going to include in my 100 points, I was thinking a little bit about using the Doppelganger, because he can take mimics. And the cool thing about the Doppelganger is you don't flip cards for her when you shoot into a combat with her. So I was thinking about using, well, obviously the guild likes its guns. So throwing the Doppelganger in the middle, she can give negatives to melee flips against her or ranged attacks against her, and then just shooting into whatever she's fighting in the middle while she collects points. I was thinking about that, and I think that might be worth playing around with.
Hey Chris, do the hunters that come with Hoffman, do they have like a pull effect? Don't they have like a or something like that?
They do, yeah. Actually, yeah, I forgot about that. They actually have a harpoon gun. They can actually pull models out of the middle. So that's a good point. They might actually be pretty awesome at Turf War. Ash, have you joined the podcast?
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Ash was busy building Hannah, so he couldn't make it on time.
Actually, I'm busy. I'm busy painting Dark Age stuff.
That's what I'm doing.
Is that what you're doing? No way.
Weird.
I wonder why it's so weird.
Ash, do you have any thoughts on Turf War at all, dude?
Yeah, you should get Mr. Graves if you're going to buy a Mimic for Lucius, because he can show the door to anybody twice a turn.
Ooh.
So show the door means, and he's got a 2-inch reach on it, and a decent melee stat of 6, and he doesn't need a trigger card, he just does it naturally. So unless he somehow loses his natural, I think, mask, he just walks up, grabs somebody, and hucks them out. And you can do it to friendlies too, so you can actually use it to gain additional movement on whoever your beater is. So I use it to throw Lilith at people a lot because she likes getting tossed around by Mr. Graves. But if you're gonna take whatchamacallit, if you're gonna take Turf Warcaster and try and include Lucius in there, he's a good mimic to have. And you just have the lawyer back him up for extra defense. Makes him a whopping defensive 5.
Sounds like you know what you're talking about.
I've played this game like I don't know, once or twice.
He loves the bouncer. He loves to bounce people out of the club.
He does.
I do. I like anything with push and pull. Actually, I played a game with Lilith just last week, actually, against Adam. It went up on my channel today, where I took a Beckoner, Graves, and also a Cherub. So I got to just basically put and Transfixing Gaze on Lilith. So I was just like moving around Arcanist cats and stuff basically the entire game. I think in the first turn I dragged a Rattler, like it's walked towards me, and then just pushed. I had Graves throw Lilith forward, and then Lilith didn't even have to move. She was just standing in melee range with him, and she was like dead.
She punked it. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, she just turned it into an un-Rattler. But yeah, the push-pull stuff, especially in Guild, and especially because you could do that with a Doppelganger too if you want to take the Doppelganger. You could use Graves to chuck her in the middle and just tie everything up so it has to make disengaging tests and can't shoot, and then just start throwing bullets into whatever she's engaged with, because you can ignore it, but the enemy can't.
It's awesome, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on to Reckoning, which as a guild player is one of my favorites.
Make stuff not alive.
Make stuff not alive anymore with bullets. So Reckoning is based off, as you can tell, just killing models. So at the end of turn 2, if you've killed 2 or more models in a turn, you score a point, and just like all the other strategies, you can score a maximum of 4 points. So now keep in mind that is 2 or more models. So if you kill 5, you only get 1 point. So something I've always considered with Reckoning, one of the hardest things you have to do sometimes is not kill a lot of models.
Let stuff live.
Yeah. You're looking at a model and you're like, God, I want to kill that. But you just sometimes, you have to let it go. So let's start with Stan. What are some of your thoughts on Reckoning?
Reckoning, the murder game. I'm really looking forward to playing Leviticus in Reckoning. Leviticus. He's just such a dick and can put out so much damage. Him and Rusty Alice are both really vicious in hand-to-hand. And with Leviticus's ability to move around using the Hollow Waifs, sacrifice a Hollow Waif and you can teleport to her. He can just mess somebody up. So I'm excited to play that. That's probably the strategy I'm looking forward to playing the most.
I'm excited to playing Leviticus in that strategy. Oh, I get victory points for killing the waifs then.
Dun dun dun.
That's true. That's fine though. I'll just try to kill the things that are going to kill the waifs first, I guess. I suppose that's kind of a typical Leviticus plan, though.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is you always have to go for the waifs with him, or you're going to lose. You're going to have a bad time. Exactly.
I've also got Lazarus in there, and with some range, that'll also help out with getting those models early on. Anyone that's running around trying to stay out of reach, or any like weak little victim models, like say Guildguard or the Terratots. Those guys I can hopefully drop with some well-placed grenade blasts. With Reckoning, you just have to kind of get in there and start early. If you hold back too much, then your opponent's going to start racking up the kills before you do, and before you know it, you're going to be behind on points, and that can really tip a game if it comes down to just a point or two.
That's a good one for you to build desolation engines, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Jordan, did you want to weigh in?
Yeah, mine's actually kind of the opposite. I actually played played it a lot with my Colette warband or crew, and I spent a lot of time relying on manipulative and things like that to prevent my opponent from killing me, and then running around and just doing interact actions everywhere, just not killing stuff. They then concentrated on trying to kill me, which meant that my ski markers were just being left alone.
Mm.
And you can only get 4 from this, but I can get a lot more than that from schemes. So
yeah, you can get up to 6 off the schemes, so that's worth pointing out.
It's hard in gaining grounds though, because if you don't get 10, it's unlikely you're going to place if you're in a big tournament. It's the same problem that ITS has, is because it's all ranked based on your points in the game. It's not just win-lose. There's no win-lose rubric. If you try and ignore a strategy, you're going to find yourself middle of the pack.
that's true too.
Yeah, that's also a good point. You should be going for maximum points, I guess, in every scenario.
Yeah, that's one of the things that is interesting about the gaining grounds ranking system, is if you ignore one or the other, you're almost completely out of the tournament. If you don't score 8 every game, there's almost no way you'll win the tournament.
All right, yeah, it's worth pointing out. So don't ignore anything.
Yeah.
Jay, did you want to weigh in on Reckoning?
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. I've played it a couple times, and it can be hard depending on who you're playing against. Obviously, if you're playing against, like, two teddies and and a dreamer or something like that, or some combination of extremely killing models. I've already thought of some ideas or models I would take for that. I think I'd probably play Misaki's crew, because she's the best kind of fighting master I have, and I've been using the Katanaka snipers lately. They're really good for that, because they're kind of like the archer, but they can fight pretty well and get positive flips to their melee and shooting, just built in, which is nice. And then I'd be looking to probably make use of the smoke screen upgrade, just to make it that extra a little bit harder to get in combat with me, because I can just kind of bury and come back somewhere else. So that probably just do that, and I guess unload. What does Misaki need? She needs to be out of soulstones to get her assassinate ability. So try and get that going as soon as possible. And like you guys mentioned, you have to kind of soften models, and then try and kill 2, and then not lose anything that turn, and then do it, rinse and repeat, right? So yeah, that's kind of my plan for that. I probably wouldn't. I do probably play the game more like Jordan described, where I guess if it was in a tournament setting, I would probably go for the scheme running and the diversion. But Ash makes the point, if you're gonna try and win the thing, you need to try and score as much as you can, and there's only so much scheme running. Like, you can't. It's very hard to do both. So you should probably go for the kill, and then maybe have a method of grabbing do some scheme running maybe as like a secondary, or like, I don't know, like not make it your main. Because ultimately, if you kill, I'm sure that's a mission where if you get the jump on the opponent's models, like, you not only like are you scoring points in the strategy, but you're reducing the number of activations they have, and then once you're, let's say you have 5 models and they have 3 or something like that, those extra 2 activations go a lot farther, because they'll be done, and you'll be, that's where you can do your scheme running or whatever. You can assess the board and make your extra moves. So yeah, that's what I would do.
Yeah, and also Jay makes a good point. Picking schemes that are generally going to complement your overall strategy. So, if you already have to kill models for Reckoning, if you have the option, you might as well also pick a scheme like Murder Protege or Assassinate or something, so you can actually get points off of.
Frame for Murder is a good one too, because they're actively trying to kill you.
So yeah, those are good ones to pick alongside that, so that you don't have to split your resources per se. Ash, did you have some insight on that, bud?
Yeah, I take a different tact actually on Reckoning. I don't try and actually kill my opponent's stuff. I try and grind him. And the way that I do that is I tend to, and this is funny because I didn't play this with my guild in first edition, but I've been playing Neverborn pretty much exclusively since second edition started. And the one thing that you can do passively during your opponent's turn and their activations that a lot of people discount is actually cause terror. And I tend to load up on high terror-causing models when I play Reckoning because it's a chance to actually, throw Paralyze down mid-activation or later on in activation. So you can either paralyze a model, and that way you've actually held it in place. You don't have to kill it this turn because it's going to waste its next activation not doing anything. Or have a form of passive defense where if you can spread out enough and have guys go at you one-on-one, any willpower buffs they usually have aren't in play. And then what happens is they end up paralyzing themselves as they attack you. I've seen masters, fight an illuminated and be out of cards and then fail that terror test, and boom, they're staying there for the rest of the turn, and you just bought yourself a turn of safety.
So, yeah, I think it actually happened against when I was playing you. You're using, I think, was it Lilith? And
yep.
I was going for that. I was killing my second model against you, and terror test failed, ended the turn.
Yeah, and Perdita just stopped. She's just like, what do I do?
Yeah.
And I think there's a way of crew building there where you take stuff that causes terror, and then has some fair durability. So I think probably my Reckoning list will be Lynch, or maybe Zoraida. But Lynch, either way, it'll be heavy on Illuminated because they all cause terror, and they also all have like huge regenerative abilities and armor. So you can use them as sort of stopping stones. Like you can throw them on top of somebody because usually one model, you can't piece trade with them one model to one model. There's not a lot of other 7 Soulstone models out there that can piece trade against an illuminated and actually walk away and do it in one activation. So you're not going to kill them on the charge. They have too much armor. Their defense is too decent, and the second they get to activate again, they usually gain back 3 to 4 health because they regenerate one automatically and they can Brill Shape for another 2. So you have this way in Reckoning where what you're doing is you're actually just tying stuff up and you're grinding it instead of trying to actively kill it each turn. And one, I think it removes the temptation of overkilling stuff. You're not playing like my Lilith crew where I have Lilith and I've got Nakima now, and they can pretty much just be like, so here, those two 10 Soulstone models, I'm just gonna make them dead this turn.
I'm just dead.
Yeah. Hey, prostitute, can you get them out of here for me?
I think you raise a good point with the terror test because all it takes is someone to just hit that little stack of 2s and 3s in their deck, and they're just not doing anything.
Or just even just waiting until if you wait until they're out of cards.
Yeah, sure.
A huge sort of like play advantage. You can bring terror into play. The Teddy Horde does that really well because they're a high terror causing, almost impossible to kill model that you can bring in, and it can push itself around. So I think a really popular, I don't have them, so that's why I don't play them, but a really popular list for that is actually Baby Cade and 2 or 3 Teddies and Lilith, and then maybe just 1 or 2 Sorrows in back, and they just clump up in the middle and make you come to them, or they force the issue by throwing a Teddy at you that just locks you down because it's got, I think, 2 or 3 engagement, and then like you're stuck fighting them, and you can't piece trade against them. Like, so you're just literally throwing stuff into a meat grinder, and it just stands there taking hits and healing, and then killing like 2 models, and then taking hits and healing. Yeah. Every time you do something, every time you fail one of those turn tests too, or even just make a willpower test, you have to attack it. You're taking damage off of whatever Sorrows are hanging out there, and plus Pandora herself.
What can men do, Ash?
Stand back and use bullets.
Weirdly enough, I wasn't thinking of men. I was thinking of like Victoria and Taylor.
Oh wow, yeah.
yeah, or drag stuff out of position. That's the brick you have to pick apart. That's the Malifaux equivalent of like armor bricking in other games, where you just got this like horde of armor bricks that you can't really break. So you have to kind of pull it apart and deal with it all individually. And even then, it's terrifying because a Teddy, like, is nightmare fuel in and of itself, but like also almost impossible to kill. One-on-one, you're gonna have to put 2 or 3 models into it, and then by putting 2 or 3 models into it, if it doesn't die, you've just given it 2 or 3 models to kill.
Oh yeah.
You've basically just given it next turn's VPs. So I tend to take a kind of non-standard approach to that game. It's more about how can I create the worst possible situation for you to fight, and then uneven trades. And things like Terror, Armor, and Regenerate are all a great way of getting uneven trades off, because even if model's damage output is low, like the whatchamacallits, the illuminated damage output isn't great, but their defensive abilities are fantastic. And so it's worth taking them, I think, because they'll outlast most other models, and you have to commit usually 2 models at least to try and kill one in one turn. So you make it harder for your opponent to get that 2 models per turn, and then force them to commit back 2 models per turn that then you can go and pick apart.
Yeah, I think Ash also, brings up a really good point about one thing I learned early on about Reckoning is, and this might not necessarily be true for gaining grounds where you're trying to score as many points as possible, but denying your opponent easy kills every turn, like taking really tough, expensive models and stacking up on them, and making it hard on your opponent to kill 2 models a turn. Like if you just take, teddies and things like that, it's pretty hard to kill 2 teddies in a turn.
I'd say it's impossible.
They might have to have a rule on their card. Impossible.
Yeah. Impossible to kill.
Yeah. All right, moving on to Reconnoiter. Reconnoiter being table quarters. So you're basically looking to have 2 or more models. Is it 2 or more models?
No, it's 2 or more models and more models than your opponent.
More models than your opponent in a table quarter.
Yeah.
This one I actually always find to be really tricky. People are usually, kind of all over the place with their models are doing schemes and zipping around, and because of the way that Malifaux works, back and forth activations, you really have a lot of like last minute placements to shift the battle back and forth. Stan, what are your thoughts on Reconnoiter?
Generally speaking, probably one of my favorites to play with my Neverborn, just because they're so fast and are able to spread out pretty quickly. It's really easy to again put your opponent on their back foot by being really aggressive in Reconnoiter. Like even just some small scheme runners, like the Terratots or the Silurids and stuff, are great for dashing out, doing your schemes around the board, and nabbing those Reconnoiter points while they're at it. I think with the Outcasts, and Terra and Von Schill are probably going to be the go-tos. More Terra. I actually have played Terra in Reconnoiter once before, and her super speedy abilities were fantastic. She can grab a table quarter on turn 1. You can get your Void Wretches, since they have a decent movement value as well. You can get them into support on like turn 2, even before your opponent, thinking about leaving his table half. So yeah, I mean, I like to play aggressively. I like to play with fast models. So Reconnoiter is actually probably one of my favorite strategies to flip when I'm playing. That being said, it can be a little bit tricky if your poor weak little scheme runners are the only thing hanging out in a table quarter. Again, with the guild, like having the ability to reach out and just shoot somebody and knock out those weak models can change your plans really drastically. So having some tougher backups to sort of wait in on turn 2 or 3 to just sort of secure the area is really great. The other thing is, again, most of my experience with Reconnoiter coming from Neverborn, I've usually had a few bigger, tougher models, things like Teddies or Mature Nephilim that are reasonably fast, but also hard to take out, to sort of push on my opponent right from the get-go, and force my opponent to deal with that threat before they try to spread out. Because again, like Ash said, the Teddies are horrifying. If you have a Teddy stomping down the middle of the board, you kind of have to deal with it. You can't just ignore a Teddy. And it is going to take more than 1 or 2 models to kill it, generally speaking. So, I mean, it's a way of tying up your opponent's models, tying up their activations and their action points, forcing them to kill something that they really just are going to have a hard time with, and letting you run free, as it were. So yeah, Reconnoiter, definitely one of my favorites to play.
All right, Jordan, you got any things to weigh in on?
Yeah, mine's kind of similar. I like running Colette with Reconnoiter, and since she's Arcanist, that works out really well for me. Because turn 1, I like to run up and get as much as possible near the center line and just start laying down ski markers and other other abilities that'll help me control the void in later turns. Specifically, like performers are able to pull you and push you into different places, kind of like the Beckoners and the ski markers with Colette's crew. She's able to. The performers are able to use them to give you negatives to your duels. So giving just a clump of ski markers hanging around where I know we're going to be doing the fighting can make things a lot easier. So it's with Reconnoiter, it's always the turn one for me is getting into position, getting stuff where it's going to need to be for scoring points in the second and third and fourth and fifth turns. So
awesome, dude. Jay?
Yeah, I think in this type of mission, anything that gives you like free movement is going to be good. So it's kind of a trade-off between playing with because, like, for instance, if I take some of the models you've normally seen in the Saggy's crew, like the Garages and I think she herself, there's a lot of ways to get free moves. So that's kind of a nice way to, if you go in, do your attack, and then kind of push yourself across the line. So, I mean, obviously, if you're kind of near the center, it's very easy to jump into a quarter because you don't have to travel as far. And then same with my Brewmaster, it's a little toss-up because if I give my little Loop Shinobu or Shinobi poison, which isn't hard to do, just give them up a little Plica point of poison on them. They get extra, like 5 to get an extra block.
Oh wow!
To just get pushed into a direction. So I'd probably kind of go with something like that. I actually had a very funny game where one of the other schemes I got was Distract. And that worked out really well because I could distract a bunch of the other players' models and then have fingers chatty and distract them, as in they couldn't undistract themselves. So it definitely, if I can get that scheme, that works really well. I would play the speedy game. I feel like when I play Malifaux, I take a weird approach. I actually don't like, not that I don't like killing models, but that's not a priority in my mind, which is probably a bad thing. I like playing more of the kind of annoying, distracting game. I like using feints and running models in one direction, and just purely to pull other models out of position and get them to focus on something that may eat up too much time, and then use my other models to get around. And so I like this strategy a lot for that reason. I like the way it plays, and it really turns into a bit of a chess match because you're like, well, I want to stay here, but if I stay here, then I don't score. Or if you want to kill a certain model because it's annoying you, but if you go do that, then you pull yourself out of position. So you have to be careful, actually.
Ash?
Yeah, I think this is an interesting one because I think of the strategies that are posted for this tournament, this is the one that actually is going to challenge people the most when they build their pool. Because if you have an unlimited pool of models, then you can do things like grab a horde of ski runners or grab a horde of like fast mobile troops. But when you only have 100 soul stones to try and fit in models to do everything, you wouldn't necessarily take the same models to play Reckoning as you would to play Reconnoiter, which I think is a great skew. People are going to have to make some concessions to their model pools to try and actually compete in this one, because you can't just toe the line. You have to be a certain distance away from the center, I think, as well. And that means that you have to have some independent models that can get places quickly and then actually survive and stay there. So, I mean, you can run a Terratot, 20 inches a turn if you have Lynch, or if you just get a good draw on your masks. You can use things like McCabe on his horsey to get over there, but then he's going to be unsupported. There's lots of ways to get into those quarters, but I think that to find models that can get into those quarters and survive and also be useful in 3 other strategies is going to be a big challenge for people. Personally, my scheme runners tend to also be fairly defensive, so like I'll happily 20-inch run something like a Terratot into a corner and then just have him sit there and go defensive every single turn because he defends 6. So
that's fantastic.
A defense 6 model with negative flips against everything is, I mean, if you land a hit on him, he just explodes because he's only got 3 boxes. But the usefulness of that is going to be the same in Reconnoiter as it will be in something like the average scheme pool that I'm going to draw in other missions too, right? So they can basically be dual action. I think some crews are really going to be like your Void Wretches, for instance. You don't necessarily want them not attacking models or being able to support Terra and bury and unbury. You don't have them off in a corner. That's not necessarily where you want them to be. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I think there's a lot. There's a lot that mission has that the other 3 missions that are going to be in play doesn't. And it's going to be, I think, an oddball for list building and for the pool. So personally, I think the faction I've picked is really strong in Reconnoiter because a lot of their hard-hitting and model-moving models are also good in other missions. But I think more static factions like Guild and also the Resurrectionists are probably going to have a bit of a brain chew as they try and come up with a scheme pool, or a model pool that will allow them to do that and compete in other strategies.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you there. I usually find Reconnoiter to be one of my tougher games, and which is probably going to contribute to me when I build my 100 points. If there's one of the strategies I'm going to tend to ignore the most, it's going to be Reconnoiter.
And just try and figure it out in the day. Just hope you get a good pairing.
Not completely ignore it, but my general approach to Reconnoiter is probably going to be more just try to remove models, as quickly as possible. Take a more of a killing approach.
Stop your opponent from doing it rather than do it yourself.
You got it. Yeah, exactly. So, which I think with Guild, who has less tricks when it comes to movement, a little less speed than most factions. You kind of have to play that way, I think, with Reconnoiter. Yeah, and then there's obviously when the schemes get revealed, it changes everything. Like I might have to adopt a bit more of a speed approach if my only schemes available are things like go drop scheme markers on terrain features or things like that. But if I can manage to get some schemes that involve killing, I'll probably just take that approach. All right. Last but not least, we have Squatter's Rights. So Squatter's Rights involves the placing of 5 markers across the center line of the table 6 inches apart, and you have to take a 1 interact action with them. To claim them, it's sort of like capture the flag in the middle, only there's 5 flags. Yeah, Stan, what are your thoughts, bud?
Well, I mean, I like to play the interact type, and again, using the scheme runner to go around and do all the dirty work.
All too well, yes.
So yeah, Squatter's Rights. Line in the Sand is one that I is a scheme I really like, and Squatter's Rights plays very similarly to it. I find, especially if you have the speed to go out and grab the squatter markers on the sides of the table. You can sometimes sort of get a jump on your opponent just by nabbing those and then clogging up the center where they might be trying to do their own thing. Especially, again, most of my experience is fighting against Guild, and like you say, being a little bit slower, it usually means they're coming towards the center as the fighty block. As far as the Outcast crews that I'm building my 100 Soulstone pool around, I mean, I talked about Turf War and having sort of the death ball of Von Schill, or the more sort of manipulative death ball of Terra running up the middle. I think either one of those could work really well with Squatter's Rights. Terra in particular, since she can hand out fast to her own crew, can help sort of spread out if need be, or defend the center, especially where they have the tougher Void Wretches and the big guy whose name I can't think of right now. Tentacle McTentacleface.
Nothing Beast.
Nothing Beast.
Obliterate. You just
obliterate.
Cthulhu.
Obliterate. Yeah.
Yeah, having the Nothing Beast stomp up the middle and everybody off with his obliteration and stuff, I think it'd be really effective. That being said, I don't think I've played Squatter's Rights as much as some of the other strategies. So it's one that I wouldn't say I'm entirely confident with rolling up to the table. Definitely one that I like to play a few more games to sort of get my head around it, especially since I'm changing factions from my usual Neverborn when playing it, and don't have as many of the really schemy options again, like the Terratots or the manipulative models who can tie up the enemy and prevent them from interacting themselves and taking those squad markers back. So yeah, it's I'd probably say of the bunch, it's the one I need to learn the most, especially with this new faction and this pool of models.
Awesome, man. Jordo?
I actually really like Squatter's Rights because it allows me to play with my single favorite scheme, which is line in the sand, really easily. Because I'm already on the center line, so it just seems to work out well. I've had luck and bad luck, or sorry, good luck and bad luck, I guess, with this one. Because there's times where I think, oh, I'll just go into the center and I'll just try and defend those 3 because I only need to hold on to 2, and they can, go off and get the side ones, and then I can just try and maintain these 3. If they take one from me, I've still got the other one. And I've gotten wiped, just they walk through it because I took too many scheme runners instead of hard hitty guys. And I've tried the scheme runners running out on the sides and trying to hold the 2 different ones, and they take one from me, and I've got to fight through their entire crew to get to it.
Yeah.
So I think the key to Squatter's Rights is a little bit of a balance, kind of like what Stan was saying, where you need to have the guys who are fast and able to get there and claim them quickly, and then be able to run around and claim, or I guess unclaim them from your opponent, while you have heavier hitting guys able to hold the ones that you do need to hold, so that you don't end up losing one at a key point and then not getting your final points.
Yeah, for sure. I almost find too, you really have to play aggressively with this one, because if you don't move your models really far forward on turn 1 and 2, you're not going to be interacting with those things on turn 2. So you kind of have to push up and play aggressive. Jay?
I haven't played this one too much, but kind of listening to the observations, I'm thinking maybe something like, I don't know, would you maybe have make a squad of kind of all your, or a bunch of your models, and you could almost kind of start from one end and make your way across? Because obviously the tough part is if you kind of overcommit, then you're weak on one side. I agree, you have to be aggressive. You got to start forcing the issue. But I'm wondering if maybe doing something like forcing the issue, kind of almost refusing a flank and then kind of working your way across might be good. But I don't know. You guys might have more experience in that than I do. But,
I think traditionally when you do something like that, because that's a common strategy, I think the opponent just goes the other way and you both kind of score all the points off.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
Which might not be bad for the tournament, because you want to score all your points, right? So
yeah,
wins and losses don't mean anything. I think that's something you got to wrap your head around, right? It's
sure.
how many points you can score during the entire thing. So your wins and losses aren't relevant. How much damage you do to your opponent is relevant, because that's your secondary tiebreaker, and then your number of total overall points scored. So even if you're allowing your opponent to score so that you can also get 2, it's a valid tactic. As long as he's getting less than you.
That's right.
Over the course of
that one more. Yeah.
I think that's hard for some people to wrap their heads around. It's not intuitive to let your opponent score, but it's becoming more and more common in certain tournament packets that's actually the main win condition, right? Is just how many times did you complete the thing the game says you need to do to win, as opposed to did you beat your opponent. And in Gaining Grounds, especially 2015 Gaining Grounds, that's all that tournament cares about. It only cares about how many times you actually went and tried to score an objective point. There's a couple other major tournament systems right now the same way. They don't care about traditional win-loss records at all. So I think that this is one in particular, because it's actually possible to completely tie and for both of you to get 10. It's actually not. It's one that, as a TO, you kind of have to watch out for, because guys can just get an ungentlemanly agreement to both score 10.
Oh yeah, sure.
It's one of the reasons why I'm glad it's not the first game, because if it's the first game, then it could actually be one that both guys just kind of if they know each other, go, hey, you wanted to score 10 points?
Oh no, yeah.
And we both advance, we're both 10 points in. Because if you both got 2, you're scoring 2 per round. And then you can both reveal schemes at the beginning and just be like, hey, do you want to let me drop some scheme markers? Like, if the scheme pool has two that are non-combative, that are just like, hey, go drop scheme markers over here or be over here, then you could very easily both score 10 off that one. And it's actually one of the reasons why I don't particularly like that mission of all the missions. Most missions preclude the other player from scoring.
Right.
And as a TO, I don't necessarily like any mission where both players can score 10 in the same round. Right? There's a fault in that mission, because what it's done is, as a TO, it's meant that you can both get a max score tie. There should be no such thing as a max score tie. A max score tie should be half the available points. So it's a mission that is a bit wonky in that regard, because you've got a sort of funny scoring rubric on it.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, we're for our first big Malifaux event, we're trying to encourage a lot of beginners. I think it's going to be good. It's a nice little. It's a bit of a friendlier kind of shape on things, right? I guess.
I'm sure it's not going to happen. It's just one of those ones where I have to think of the worst possible.
Of course.
Ash is basically already putting it down that he'll be watching you. He'll be watching and judging.
Judging and watching.
He'll be like, "What's the score? 9-9."
Always watching, always judging. I don't think it's a bad mission. Don't get me wrong. I think again, it's a mission that can lead to a lot of scrumming. So I think there's an inherent, because it draws people towards the middle. There's an inherent sort of desire to kill your opponent built into any time models have to get into close contact, right? Like, if they're both going for the same line in the middle, there's going to be some violence. So I don't think that without some collusion, that kind of thing would happen. But it is a possibility. It is one where you could actually go 10 and 10 on either side, which I think is just a scary proposition. If you have 5 guys, or if you have a 20-person tournament, at the end of it, all 20 people have a score of 10.
Yeah.
It's like, we're not playing a 2-round tournament.
No, yeah, exactly.
So that's all of the main strategies that we'll be using at the event. Of course, there's also Stake Claim, but we won't go into that today because it's not actually being played at the event. So
yeah, it's only for the final round if there was going to be 5 rounds, but I think that's too long a day.
Yeah, I mean, 4 rounds is enough destruction on your brain, I think.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But yeah, Ash missed the beginning, so let's get your hobby progress update.
Oh man. What hobby progress?
Oopsie daisy.
Oopsie daisy. I've been neck deep in so many different games in the last 2-3 weeks since we recorded the last one. I did actually switch factions. I decided that I was not going to be the outcast. Hannah just totally broke me. And, I went and ordered a Zareta crew, so I'd have my 3rd Neverborn Master. And I wanted some Fen Beasts, not the Fen Beasts, the Bad Juju and some Silurids too. Silurids are great scheme runners. I just wanted to have them in my collection. And rather than just buying a box of Silurids, I was like, why don't I just get another Master and Bad Juju and a Voodoo Doll as well? So I had some store credit on an online store, like some points I'd accumulated. I decided I got an email saying cash these in, so I cashed them in. And I got that, and I got Nekima, and they're all built and primed, and I haven't actually painted any of them yet. Because my nap time hobbying that I get when my kids sleep has been completely filled with other games that are going in front of the camera way sooner than this tournament. So I'm hoping once the Age of Sigmar dies down, that I'll get back to Malifaux and I'll be able to put some paint on those. But my hobby progress right now has been assembling and priming.
That might be a while.
Which, to be fair, that's further than I got on Hannah.
Oh, well, yes.
I'm 6 models past Hannah. Wait, no, more than 6, because it's 6 in the box. It's 7 models past Hannah now for my Neverborn.
I'm glad you realized that you had to cut your arm off to survive this.
Oh man, there's no way. It was a complete 127 hours. Like, I was literally like, Hannah had me out of the. Hannah was my boulder. And I was amputating my arm with a sprue cleaner, a dull sprue cleaner. But yeah, no, she's primed. She's sitting downstairs. Actually, I finished building her. But I think actually what it was more than assembling Hannah, it was just the idea that do I really want to do? Because I actually have a Thunders box too, that I was sent by a fan that I really want to get painted, and I just didn't want to rush any of that stuff. And so it'll be way faster and easier for me to paint 7 models and add to my Neverborn and take a 100-point pool out of that, to be the ringer if I have to be the ringer, than it would be to, get a whole 20, 30 models done for Outcast and just switch factions completely. But I do want to have a second faction done for the co-op, because when people come in and play Neverborn, I don't want to play Neverborn against them. So right now I'm just like, I'll use Lucius and my awesome selection of guild mod. Oh, man.
Without riflemen. Ooh.
Oh, why am I doing this? So yeah, it didn't go. So I played against a Pandora crew with a Teddy in it, and it was like his first game. He just walked all over Lucius. It was terrible. Poor Lucius.
Oh my gosh, yeah, no, for sure. Well, and you're digging the Neverborn right now. You're having a lot of fun with them, so
yeah, I am for sure. It's been a big change for my guild army, so I'm gonna get a few more games in them. I think one more master. I think 3 masters is a good spot to just go. Oh, I feel pretty good about this faction, and then sort of start to explore other options.
Unless you're Stan.
You know, to be fair, you know, he hasn't finished all the Outcasts yet.
No.
Yeah.
You will, though.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming out. So I think in either next week or the week after, our next episode is going to be focused on hopefully some games we're actually going to get to play with each other.
Yeah.
Yay, gaming. So we'll set that up. We'll see what that looks like. Maybe we'll even make it onto Ash's channel.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. And then we'll get back to hopefully we'll have some finished crews to show everybody off as well. Yeah, but for now, hopefully everyone's painting along and having fun, and check out our Facebook page for progress photos. We'll put a little album up there so we can put some things in there, and you can actually throw some stuff in there, listeners, if you're working on something for the event as well or just painting along with us. Feel free to add that in. And check out our events. Like I said, August 15th and 16th, Lords of War weekend. It's going to be Age of Sigmar on Saturday.
Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, Age of Sigmar. Still working out the details. Hopefully we'll have them for you this week. But Infinity and Malifaux are on the 16th, and those are set in stone. Ash is running that, so we're excited for that.
Yeah, you can check out either my Facebook page or because my Facebook page has the event invites. That has all the information for the scenarios and the format and stuff, and that's facebook.com/out-of-the-basement into the streets. Just go to my events. You can see both events and all the info for that. And just give us, if you say yes or even just maybe, that'll give us an idea of the turnout, which is really good because, of course, Infinity has a pretty steep terrain commitment. So
we're painting terrain, so
just a little,
out, please.
I'm ready to chain myself to a table with an airbrush just attached to my hand. We're just going to tape it in.
We're just going to go to the dollar store and buy gift boxes and spray them gray. That's all. You bring your quality, guys. That's what we're going to do.
I'm gonna get the green masking tape and paint some cool racing stripes on them.
That's it. Yeah. We're gonna get some stickers with some anime girls on them. That's gonna be it. That's gonna be your
That's right. Is this appropriate?
So
frontline gaming mats and hat boxes. The book's out crazy. Let me just look at it right now, actually, because I can tell you what our current turnout is. It looks like we've got about 15 or 16 right now.
Oh my god!
Potentially for the Malifaux one, and that's including the maybes. And then the ITS one right now is between 20. Yeah, probably about 20 for the Infinity one.
Cool. Yeah. So click join if you're planning on coming, just so we can get a better idea of what we need to do up. It's going to be a blast.
And between those two, that's about 2/3 of the way through the available tickets. So people should probably start paying for their tickets if they are actually planning on going.
Absolutely.
That would be my suggestion, to make sure you actually get a spot. Because a lot of people wait till the last minute because, you know, it's hard to hit a button and use PayPal. But
I like how Ash politely just asked everyone to please give us your money now.
Please just go give them your money, because I need to know how many hot boxes I have to buy.
And the shoe boxes.
And the shoe boxes. So I can go to the dollar store lady and be like, hey, what do you got in gift boxes that don't have stupid animals on them?
Dollar store, here I come.
That's right. That's right. We're going to Dollarama this whole tournament. It's going to be amazing. But,
the last time we made an Infinity table, I was just in a haze of airbrush mist. And I think I shaved 8 years of my life off.
Airbrush makes it pro. If even it looks pro, I'm going to airbrush it. I'm going to spend some battle damage on it.
Did you know it's
golden beams?
Pro-faded, baby.
People are going to flip out and wig out and offer us money for that train. It's going to be good. Yeah, please, guys. I need to know how much infinity terrain we need, and I've got tons of it. But like right now, we're looking at 10 tables ish. So we need to know if that's actually 10 tables of terrain or not that we need to bring.
No, don't worry, we'll have a feature table with real terrain on it. It's not bad boxes.
It's not what
So if you keep winning your games, you get to stay on the feature table.
That's right. Exactly.
Also, guys, we have run events before. This is our 4th event, so generally it does fill up really quickly. So yeah, get signed up, pay so we have your spot reserved, and we'll go from there. Ash mentioned it, but if you enjoy battle reports, check out Guerrilla Miniature Games. Some awesome battle reports from Malifaux, Infinity, Age of Sigmar's got one up there too, and
yeah, it was
every other miniature game in the world.
Dude, it was the biggest video on the internet for like 3 days. It was the #1 Google return search for Age of Sigmar.
That's so cool.
Amazing.
It came up before Games Workshop.
Wow.
Jeez.
Yeah,
You did it.
It was
You did
hilarious. I got 2,500 subscribers over the weekend because of that one
my
video.
God.
Someone
Incredible.
described it really well. It was the perfect blend of positivity meets I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
It was like the Cold War of like like two opposite sides battling it out.
We were Waldorf. We were the 2 guys from the Muppet Show. We were Stadler and Waldorf.
Either one guy was fighting for freedom, and the other guy was the Iron Curtain.
We had a good time though. No, we had a good
Yeah.
time. I think well, we can talk about that later. But I think there's that video was proof of how much more there is to see in that game. I think that we haven't seen yet because we just got a taste of what playing that game's like. And I think we overdid it. You know what I mean? Like we could have a tasty snack, or we could stuff ourselves till we were going to explode.
You went for the buffet.
Like we just couldn't help
You're
ourselves.
so
Man.
greedy.
We just couldn't help ourselves. It was like being a Mandarin. We just kept lining up and go back for more. Like, how often am I gonna get to eat
War Skull, bro. I'll put that another War Skull, bro.
You put down 3 Chaos Lords, well, fine then. I'll put down 60 more Iron Guts. How you like that, apples?
Ogres OP.
It's a good thing Iron Guts were fighting for freedom because
They didn't even have to fight.
I saw their stat line.
They didn't have to charge. People just walked into them and exploded.
Oh my God.
On
Wait,
that
I get to
note,
shoot?
well, thanks again, guys, for coming, and it was a lot of fun. And we'll do this again soon.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Okay,
you.
take care.
Thanks.